My name is Mark Florka, and I am your host for today. This seminar is brought to you by Goodway Technologies. With over 55 years of providing innovative maintenance and sanitation solutions, Goodway Technologies has the industry's most reliable surface and conveyor belt sanitizing equipment for robust hygiene and food production plants, commercial bakeries, snack producers, pr- um, produce processing produce processing facilities, and breweries are just places where sanitation professionals can find their high quality machines. Today, we are joined by Evan Reyes. Evan Reyes is the Global Director of Sales Sanitation Division for Goodway Technologies, a global leader in industrial maintenance, cleaning, and sanitation solutions. He oversees multiple teams of sanitation experts whose footprint spans the globe out of Goodway Technologies, Stamford, Connecticut, Düsseldorf, Germany, and Dubai and United Arab Emirate offices. With over a decade at Goodway, he has positioned himself as an industry expert in food safety and sanitation best practices. His customer-centric approach offers a deep understanding of facilities' specific challenges and helps them achieve higher quality products, safer production processes, and more profitable operations through implementation of innovative sanitation solutions. He brings hands-on experience from hundreds of visits and product demonstrations in food and beverage as plants for Goodway Solutions. Solutions that include innovative dry steam generation systems, specialized industrial vacuums, and pure belt automated conveyor belt cleaning systems. So, let me start by sharing my screen and get everything ready here. Okay, pizza and flatbread. As we mentioned, Goodway is the sponsor for this, and it's also brought to you by KPM and Ingredion and Vantage Foods. um, we will get into this let me move that out of the way so I can see what I'm doing. Okay. And so let's go through the steps here. So we're going to have a brief introduction on pizza and flatbreads, definition types, review the ingredients, review processing, and then we will have a presentation by Goodway, and then we will get into troubleshooting, Q&A, and so on with live questions from you, our audience. Okay, so what's more popular than bread and rolls in the US? Well, you got it. Pizza and flatbread, right? As a matter of fact, in the category of flatbread, I remember reading a couple years ago how tortillas, which is amongst flatbreads, is about to overtake white bread sales, white pan bread, in the US. That is incredible, right? So market trends and opportunities. The current pizza market, huge, $148.6 billion, right? And it's expected to reach 225 billion, with a compound annual growth of 4.45%. This is massive, especially as we know the economy is growing, but at the same time where people are saying they're finding trouble to spend on more. But I guess that's not true with pizza, right? The flatbread market is valued at 43.7 billion, and look at this, it is expected to grow to 70.7 over the next few years by 2030. That's a compound annual growth of 6.2%. That's better than investments on an IRA, right? um, but novel current trends are surging due to consumers' interest in healthier baked goods. Pizza is one of the most popular baked goods consumed worldwide, and it is oven baked and commonly served with tomato sauce and mozzarella cheese. The modern day pizza is considered to have been developed in 1889. So think about that. It's like over 150 almost years old when Queen You'll hear this name is familiar. Margarita requested a pizza made with the colors of the Italian flag, and thus the margarita pizza was born. It's just tomato sauce for the red, cheese for the white, and fresh basil leaves for the green. Kind of like that margarita pizza behind me, right? Um, and so, types of pizza. We have New York style. Regional differences in the US create different discussions and passionate allegiances as to what constitute perfection among the various types. New York is generally a thin crust pizza that has enough rigidity or strength to hold a wedge slice with one hand, right? It's, in New York, you got to hold your pizza with one hand, right? Chicago is famous for their deep dish pizza loaded with sauce and cheese. It is like an inch and a half deep, and it is filling, I tell you, right? And the St. Louis breaks with tradition. Now, I lived in central Illinois for 11 years, which is not far from St. Louis, and I can tell you it is very popular. It is not yeast raised, and it's almost like a cracker. It's a thin dough that is almost like a cracker, like a biscuit almost type style of dough, and it is very thin, and it is a slightly sweet sauce, and it's cut into squares rather than red wedges, right? And then there's the Detroit style, which uses a high hydration dough. It's kind of almost like a focaccia a little bit, and it's on a rectangular pan. It's made on a big sheet pan, and the cheese goes right to the edges where it then will caramelize and crisp up and almost burn. So it makes a nice crunchy edge. And then, of course, there's the Neapolitan pizza, which is from Naples, and where that focuses on simple and fresh ingredients, like the margarita style, right? But other Neapolitan pizzas are basically not loaded with a whole bunch of many different things. It's usually simple things, and like the most I've seen is what they call a Four Seasons pizza, which has basically four different types of meats on it, one in each quarter of the pizza, kind of, and that's it, right? Very simple. Another interesting thing is that in Italy, especially if you're in the smaller villages, pizza is only served in the evening. Their main meal of the day is at midday. That's when they have pasta and everything else. And if you're in a village area, you won't find it on pizza unless you're like in Rome or something, right? Midday. Is selling pizza. It's really interesting, right? There is, of course, also gluten-free pizza, which you could adopt any of the other styles to some degree, but the main thing being that the main characteristic difference is that it is without wheat or without gluten in it, right? So flatbreads are sheets of dough, and they're usually placed on a hot griddle or a baking stone. Um, Tortillas are baked a little bit different with direct fire, but things like naan and flatbreads and so on, they're baked on like something of a hot stone. And there's a wide variety of products worldwide that are flatbread. Pita, as I mentioned, from the Middle East, naan bread from Italy, also chapati bread from Italy, or chapati bread, right? And focaccia from Italy. Now, focaccia is baked in usually a sheet pan or something like that. But that's those types. So now let's get into the ingredients. Flour is an essential building block. We will leave the 0-0 flour debate for a separate seminar because that could take us an hour, right? It is, however, very important to note that as the flour is, of course, the foundation for the dough and brings various characteristics to the processing and finished product, right? Pizza flour serves as a primary ingredient for the dough's elasticity and chewiness, and flatbreads provides the foundation for the dough's structure and allowing it to be rolled out thin and flat before being baked or cooked on a hot surface, right? Water. Water is an elemental ingredient. Something that is often overlooked is the hardness of your water. It affects the dough consistency. Water is life, and it is the life of your dough, as well as in the baking. Of course, the initial texture of the dough for spreading and stretching and rolling and so on, and then in the oven to create steam. So water acts as a binding agent for the flour to facilitate the formation of gluten, and it also serves as something that the steam that rises in the oven, and it gives the cohesiveness to the bread. Right? Fat is another important ingredient. Although we use very, very small amounts in most pizza and flatbreads, it is quite crucial to the texture as well as flavor in many cases, right? You will notice a significant difference even if you're only using 0.5% on Baker's percent oil of canola oil versus a good quality virgin olive oil. It changes the flavor of the dough entirely, right? Plus, of course, olive oil is a little bit healthier for you, right? It's got the more healthier saturates in there, right? Um, and sugar. Sugar is used in very small amounts. The main reason for sugar in a pizza dough is to help provide food for the yeast, right? It may contribute to browning if you're adding a little bit extra. In the St. Louis type of pizza, there's a little bit of sugar there to complement the sweetness of the sauce, but also to give it that nice browning on the bottom and so on. Right? In flatbread, it's to balance the flavors and promote browning primarily during baking. Now, yeast. Yeast is fundamental in pizza, focaccia, and most flatbreads. Right? And it is, of course, the leavening agent that gives you that rise. Right? Plays a crucial role in fermentation, converts the sugars into carbon dioxide, gas, alcohol. So it's not just the water steam, it's that gas that expands in the oven as well. In a flatbread, it's really the combination of the yeast as well as the steam. It functions a little different in that it sort of skins over on the outside and then gives you that huge expansion to give you that open pocket, particularly in pita breads. Right? So processing and pizza, kneading. We got to develop the dough, make sure it's really well developed, and then bulk fermentation. Most of the time, whenever I've worked with pizza commercially, like in restaurants and so on, the bulk fermentation is 24 hours, right? It's usually under refrigeration. In some cases, there is even lamination, in that we're not laminating necessarily like a croissanto with butter or puff pastry, but to laminate the gluten to kind of create those cross threads. So there's a folding, and that gives it that strength and structure. And then, of course, we sheet it out and we're topping it. And then we're baking it. And in many cases, of course, it's also being packaged, right? Whether it's serving it on the table or putting it in a box for delivery or freezing it and packaging it for retail. So with flatbreads, same kind of dough mixing. But then there's just a short rest period, right? And some fermentation after dividing and rounding. And then they're sheeted out. And of course, there's the baking, which is done on very hot stones or griddles, cooling them off, and then packaging. Cooling is very critical in flatbreads because they're usually not sold frozen, they're usually sold fresh. And if they're not cooled off properly, that moisture starts to migrate out of the bread into the package and condenses to moisture on the surface, and then you very quickly get mold growth, right? And so we can see some of the basic conditions that are similar and so on for the different types of flatbreads. You have leavening agents, can be yeast, baking powder, or yeast again for naan, proofing time, the different temperatures, cooking times, and the cooking methods, right? While pita would be in an oven, chapati is a hot plate. Naan is sort of in an oven. It's sort of a combination of both because naans are generally baked inside a large clay oven where the dough is attached to the surface of it, and so it's getting the heat from the stone as well as the surrounding cavity, right? So it's kind of a combination oven stone thing, right? Focaccia sponge preparation. So focaccia is generally the traditional focaccia is made with what is called a biga sponge, which is a low hydration sponge, creates very more subtle sour flavors, not so vinegary. And then there's the dough preparation and makeup, final proofing, baking. And then there is sometimes after baking cooking, which this means is that where, for example, I mentioned Tim Hortons earlier, in these type of quick service restaurants or other restaurants, is they take essentially the baked flatbread and dress it with some oil or sauce and toppings, and then they're cooking it again or baking it, right? But they're really only just cooking the food that's on the surface, right? Of course, then slicing and then serving or packaging. So we'll come back to the troubleshooting of pizza and flatbread production after we get through the presentation by
Goodway.
which is going to be really interesting for you guys. And I also want to point out that if you want to get into this information and have it on hand for you, use the QR code to download the pizza and flatbread pocket guide. All right, so now I will pass it over to Evan, and Evan will give us a presentation on
Goodway.
his capabilities and sanitation processes.
Yeah, yeah. But so Mark introduced me before, so I'll skip that part and let's dive right into the presentation. So before we get into the equipment and how it could benefit pizza flatbread manufacturers, just want to spend a couple of minutes. I know a lot of you might not be familiar with my company, and just let you know who Goodway is and what we're all about. So our philosophy and mission is we help our customers in the baking industry help their sanitation, food safety, and quality programs through the introduction of innovative cleaning and sanitizing equipment technologies. So we have a team of 10 of us all throughout the US and Canada, and then another separate team in various countries around the world that are in bakeries every day, working with our customers to help improve sanitation. We specialize in everything from automation of certain cleaning tasks that are very time consuming, like conveyor belt cleaning, which we're going to talk about a lot today, to helping our customers solve the specific cleaning challenges within their facility. We encounter a lot of plants that have various ages of the facility, various equipment styles and production processes, hygienic design of their equipment. And we come in and we help our customers to improve. Everything we do is really with the customer in mind. Customer satisfaction is very big for us, and we strive to be a cleaning and sanitation equipment partner that really adds value for our customers, helps them improve. We're headquartered in Stamford, Connecticut. We have 59. We're in business 59 years, have 125 employees all around the world, and that's a picture of our global headquarters here in Connecticut, right there with our corporate staff. So with that, let's get into the good stuff. So we really focus on sanitation solutions for the baking industry, specifically in areas post oven, wherever we are looking to maintain a dry environment. So this is just kind of a summary of some of the equipment that we offer. Over on the top right are dry steam cleaning systems for equipment cleaning and sanitation. We offer many industrial vacuums, including Class 2 Division 2 explosion-proof units for ingredient recovery. We have really nice attachments for overhead cleaning as well, made out of carbon fiber. The hands-free conveyor belt cleaning, which we'll get into quite a bit today, and different tools and techniques for allergen management, allergen cleaning. Kind of on the agenda, is just kind of looking at the overall baking industry, the way that the baking industry has traditionally cleaned conveyor belts post oven, looking at some of the advantages of automation, the different solutions that are available, going through a case study and then a return on investment calculator with labor savings and kind of how to get started with the next step. So typically when we walk in bakeries during sanitation day, we always see the air hoses are out and people blowing off conveyor belts, and flour and crumbs are going everywhere, and it's kind of a big dust clouds, and we're kind of, we see A lot of soils move from the conveyor belt to other parts of the factory. Once they're airborne, they get in the airstream. They can get to the ceiling, they can get to the walls, land on other equipment. We also see on a periodic basis for transfer conveyors from the oven to the spiral cooler, or from the spiral cooler to packaging. We see that belts are removed periodically, taken to a washroom, put in a soak tank or pressure washed, allowed to dry, and then reinstalled by maintenance. So very time consuming, very labor intensive process. Belts do need to be removed periodically to access the everything that's underneath them. So the sprockets, the guide rails, and internal framework of the conveyor. But in general, in between those deep cleans, we don't see, if it's a dry environment, we typically just see a lot of wiping and air blowing, and kind of subpar cleaning results in between those deep cleans. So that's where we introduce our modular system for belt cleaning, which we'll explain in a little bit more detail after these slides. But some of the advantages that the modular system provides, we're able to clean conveyor belts in place while maintaining a dry environment, and it's all hands-free cleaning. We'll go through the system in a minute. But there's a significant labor savings from using the portable belt cleaners. We save time from having maintenance remove those conveyors and reinstall them. If we can clean the belts in place, it's a really big time savings for maintenance. It's also a time savings for sanitation from needing to pressure wash the conveyors or clean them in the washroom. If we could put a cleaning system that mounts on the conveyor belt, it's able to clean it in place as it runs underneath, we're saving all that labor time. We could use those resources elsewhere in the bakery for tasks that might not be getting done or might need to get done. We're able to clean the belts faster and leave them instantly dry. Also shorten cleaning windows just by using less water and requiring less drying time. So doing that, we're able to reduce sanitation changeover times, allowing for less downtime in the facility and for production to run longer. We've also validated with our system. We have many customers that use our system for the removal of dairy, sesame, and tree nut allergens, and use them pretty regularly, and they work fantastic for those applications. From a food safety perspective, that's always most important to me. Our system is able to not only clean the belts, but from the heat transfer of steam into the internal links of conveyors, we see a really nice yeast and mold reduction on the product contact surfaces post-oven. So we're not only cleaning the belts, but we're leaving them in a very sanitary condition. And we've helped many of our customers reduce not only yeast and mold counts on their belts, but also customer complaints down the road, especially during humid summer months. Because we introduce no moisture when cleaning, the belts are left completely dry, and we reduce those yeast and mold counts on the belt. We help our customers make a safer product and a higher quality product. Human safety as well. When we're using the system to clean belts hands-free, we're reducing strain on operators from wiping and things like that, heavy scraping, and we're decreasing exposure to chemicals. Typically with our system, we could do the cleaning without any degreasers and things like that. We don't miss a spot, and we typically will pass our ATP or allergen swaps the first time around, because it's the robot doesn't miss a spot. So here's what the system looks like. It's a portable unit that you could see sits on the guide rails of any conveyor. The back end slides in and out. So as long as we build it to the widest conveyor in a bakery, we could adjust it to fit everything smaller. We take steam from the steam generator pictured on the left. It's a low moisture steam, about 5% moisture content. We plumb that up into the belt cleaner, and then we apply it to the belt as it moves underneath. There's a spinning disc that shoots steam down into the belt, and does a really nice job cleaning the food contact surface and all those hard to clean uh, niches in between the knuckles of the belt. It does a real nice job getting into those tight spots and blowing all the crumbs and debris down onto the floor. As we clean the belts are left instantly dry because the moisture content that we use is very, very low. It also weighs down the soils that we're cleaning. So unlike using an air gun, nothing ends up airborne. We weigh everything down and it all ends up down on the floor in a nice, neat pile. It takes just a few minutes to set up. We could easily move it from belt to belt. And so it's a tool. Once you have it in the bakery, it's applicable to many different conveyors within the facility. So I'll just go through the bullet points, make sure I didn't miss anything. But we use it to clean all open mesh conveyor belts, whether they're plastic, interlock style, or metal belts or metal wire belts. As long as there's an open hole for crumbs to be blown through, it's a belt style that can be used with our system. Portable, adjustable to fit a variety of belt widths. Once you set it up, you can let it clean for 30 minutes and go do another task, which is one of the biggest benefits. So you can clean some equipment in an adjacent area while the belt's being cleaned hands-free. So it's a really nice assisted cleaning system. We have some kind of advanced computer software that, based on the belt length, belt width, and speed, will automatically calculate a cleaning program, and the system just does its thing, and it figures out exactly what it needs to do to clean the belt. It works really well on crumbs, oil, and dry debris. So flatbread manufacturing post-oven, anywhere, spiral coolers are a really great application, but also on the conveyors going to and from the spiral coolers from the oven and then from the cooler down to packaging are a prime target for this system. We'll reduce yeast and mold counts on that belt, and we leave the belts instantly dry and ready for sanitizing. So really, really effective technology for dry bakeries. Here's just a case study looking at a bakery over in the Northeast that use our system to clean their racetrack coolers. So these are really long coolers, maybe half a mile long, and it wasn't acceptable in this particular bakery to use water for sanitation in this area. No drains, and the equipment wasn't designed for it. So on a weekly basis, they would actually take sections of the conveyor and take them to the washroom and then reinstall them. They took them off in about 18 sections, so they do a different section every time, and that was about 120 hours of labor time. So that was their previous cleaning method. Removing those sections, hand washing them, rinsing them, sanitizing, letting them dry, and then reinstalling. Very time-consuming, labor-intensive process. They went away from that towards using our system, and were able to see a 95% reduction in labor time. Of course, we were able to clean the belts in place. There's no potential for them to be recontaminated back on the way from the washroom to the production line. So it's just overall a more hygienic, less time-consuming way to clean their belts, and they really saved a significant amount of time and money in switching to our system. So ways to calculate that labor savings. This is just we have some ROI calculators and different things that our sales experts can help you with. But the first thing is just to evaluate each cleaning task that we might be able to improve. What are the current amount of hours used for sanitation? How many people? What tools are being used? What chemical costs or what's the water consumption tied to those activities? And those are our fixed costs. Then, after testing our equipment with one of our people and demonstrating and validating that it works with swabbing and everything like that, figuring out what is the time savings, labor savings, and water reduction from those specific tasks. So we have a really nice chart that goes through that. You plug in the different numbers, and it spits out if you put in your hourly labor rate, will spit out a number at the bottom that'll tell you what the specific ROI looks like and what the payback would be. But we just basically take those fixed costs, multiply it out by how many weeks, and times the weekly frequency of the cleaning event, and we get a nice ROI. So that's something that our team is very well versed on and could help you with in order to kind of look at the equipment and justify it. So getting started, if anyone on the call is interested in taking a closer look at this, first step would just be to give me a call or give us a call here at Goodway. We'd set up a time to come out and visit your facility, look at the applications, and then find a good time to demonstrate the equipment during your planned downtime at the bakery. From there, we'd come up with a custom package for, that would really help improve the sanitation of your facility and help you check all the boxes with return on investment. So that's it for me. Mark, I'll pass it back over to you. Thank you so much, everyone.
Now I have an interesting one for you. And I thought it was really interesting when you talked about that, that long freezer case study or long refrigeration case study and things. Is made me think of I worked in a facility where with the municipality we were monitored for the amount of wastewater that we produced, particularly and also the level of chemical in the wastewater. So sometimes people don't think about this, and then they get caught behind the 8 ball.
Right.
And is this something that you evaluate in that evaluation process too, and take into consideration when you're setting up the robots and everything?
Absolutely, yeah. So we have a lot of customers that call us with those same challenges. Hey, we just had a
Hmm.
huge wastewater fine, and we need to find a way to use less water
Yep.
because it's prohibitive.
Yeah.
So we get that call a lot. The first step is to understand the application. Hey, what product are you making? What type of soil is left behind on the belt? The type of soil really plays a big role. Our
Hmm.
system works great for crumbs, dry debris, post bake. We wouldn't use it on a proofing belt or something like that, where we might have, parted pieces of dough and things that you really need to rinse off with more water. So the understanding the application is number one. Demonstrating it in the bakery to show that it's going to do the job, and we're able to pass swabs that they need to pass for their particular concerns is really important. But that's something that we felt many of our customers with is our system doesn't put any water down the drain, uses only 7 gallons of water per hour. So it's an extremely low water consumption, and that steam evaporates, and we have no water that goes on the floor down to the drain. So it can be looked at as a
Fantastic.
clean
Excellent.
technology.
Well, there's a variety of ways to do that. One of the simplest ways at first is increasing hydration, for starters, right? It's also relative to the not only the protein level, but the quality of the protein in your wheat flour. Fermentation is key. As I mentioned in the presentation, most places where I've worked where we did pizza doughs, we did a 24-hour bulk refrigerated fermentation. What this does is it allows the protease enzymes, and think like protein. These are enzymes that react with the protein, and they are very slow in their efforts. But what they do is they cleave off some of the branches, so you end up with more gliadin than glutenin, and that is what gives you that extensibility without pulling back so much like a rubber band. The other thing is if you don't have the ability to add that time into your processing or scheduling is L-cysteine. L-cysteine is an amino acid that will help provide some of that functionality. It also shortens your mix time, but it will help give you more of that extensibility. It's My honest answer is it's whatever you want it to be. But most people want something that has a crisp or dry crust, at least not soggy. and that that the texture of the pizza is not like bread. We don't want it to be a fine, tight crumb like white bread. That is often when I've heard complaints from consumers is that they would say, "Oh, their pizza is just like bread dough," right? So we want something that's a little more open, a little more chewy, even a touch moist on the inside, but a crisp bottom. And if it's a New York pizza, you got to be able to hold it with one hand, right? I mean, being in Connecticut, you probably know that very well, Evan, right?
Yeah, I'm actually from New York. I'm from Queens,
Oh,
so
perfect.
you're
Yeah,
speaking my language.
yeah.
You have to. It's got to be one hand, and you
Mhm.
have to be able to walk down the block while you're eating it.
Oh, well, there we go. I didn't know that criteria. I gotta. Okay.
So great question. So typically for our system, we're more targeting dry clean applications or areas where we're making either flatbreads or pizza crust. As soon as the meat and cheese is applied, we would need to do a full wet wash at that point, and our system would no longer be applicable. So we would either be prior to where the meat and cheese is applied, or just for pizza crusts or flatbreads or tortillas. Yeah, great question. So our our team throughout the country, once the equipment is delivered on site, come out for training. So we would come and train your entire sanitation team, maintenance team, and how to keep the equipment and maintain it. So we're really hands-on in training, and then we also have a network of 60 technicians throughout the country that are available for preventive maintenance of the equipment. If the equipment ever fails, we could usually be on site anywhere within a few days, depending on where the location is. It could be faster, it could be a little bit longer. So we're real big on service and support post sale. Yeah, absolutely. Give me a call. We'd be happy to set something up anytime.
Um, and this is kind of ties in with some of Goodway's services too, because if you're producing these balls and you have all of this dust that is around, that needs to be removed because that is stuff that will pick up moisture and start molding. So sanitation is the first and most important thing. And then it's the rest is, monitoring processes and stages. And if you can't get it under control completely because of certain conditions that are not within your control, then you may need to add calcium propionate to the dough to help as a mold inhibitor or other acids to lower the pH to prevent the mold growth. Desirable, usually by most consumers, more porous, especially in today's trend. As I mentioned, like a lot of quick service operators are offering flatbreads dressed like a pizza. And these flatbreads tend to typically be a focaccia-like bread. But even so, even non-breads are very open in structure, right? So that is what is desired today. It provides a good chew and mouthfeel. It doesn't have that breadiness to it. The more compact a pizza crumb is, it tends to be more bready or more bread-like. Bready is not a real word. Excellent. Well, if that's all we have, I thank you very much for your time, Evan. This has been very informative. And want to remind everybody, you can get our pocket guide from the website. I'll share my screen one more time just so that if you didn't get the QR code, you can get it now and sign up for notifications for as whenever new pocket guides come out, you'll be notified right away and you can go get it. And they're free. They are supported by our wonderful sponsors like Goodway, KPM, and Vantage Foods, who have been co-sponsors of this presentation, and as well as Ingredion. All right. Well, thank you very much, and we will see you all in the next one. Take care.